Let's just talk about how it's been a summer.
I agree.
Okay.
Have you been super busy this summer?
Oh, typically the summer is like, hey, everyone's on break. We just get to relax a little. We can focus on more strategic projects.
Yeah.
Not this summer. This summer was like, sister, you're going to work on strategic stuff. And there's going to be all kinds of other crap that you got to do every day, all day.
Yeah. We've been kind of like that too. Like it's still kind of chill, because faculty's not here. There aren't students here. But I feel like we're so busy, like getting recruitment materials together ready for the fall and just catching up on projects that it's really gone by too fast.
Yeah. It's already the end of July, which means school is starting in like 3-4 weeks.
I know.
I guess that's when we're having this conversation. So this podcast is probably going to come out right before classes start. So all of us are like, classes are starting next week, looking back at the summer that never was.
Right. I agree. The summer has been a blur. And then also, guess what we have coming up this year? 60th anniversary of our institution.
Ooh, 60.
And so, snazzy 60, we got to do something for that. So that's top of mind too, trying to celebrate the 60th anniversary. So
I'm going to keep an eye on what you do, because I think we're at 56. We're 57. So we got a 60 right around the corner. But I'm kind of like, 60 is 60. Let's just wait till 75.
Well, that's kind of what that's kind of what Rena and I thought too, my boss, but we did not win on that. Sorry, we're celebrating Snazzy 60.
Well, at least it's snazzy.
So, you can steal my stuff if it turns out good.
That's the plan. That's what I'll do.
I'll send it to you. You don't even have to ask. I'll just send it to you.
Yeah, that's the mark of the summer, right? Like,
yeah.
I guess the COVID dethaw is real. It means we should be having some strong student returns this fall, at least I think for all of us. And this work that we're doing this summer is, preempting that, hopefully.
Yeah, it is exciting. We do have more students coming on campus now. We're starting to rebound from a dip in COVID enrollment. So that is exciting. It is nice to have students on campus. It is exciting to see them come back. So
yeah, and it opens the gates, do some real fun projects.
Right.
Things you wouldn't normally get to do.
Right.
Like graphic novels, something like that.
Right. A big project. A big, exciting project like we're going to hear about today. Maddy Asma and Jessey Prugh from the College of Lake County in Illinois are the talent and brains behind 2023's Paragon Best in Show winner. They illustrated and wrote The Path to Better Care, Training Tomorrow's Healthcare Heroes, a graphic novel that tells the story of different paths students can take to get through the healthcare program at CLC. The entry won the Gold Paragon in Print Wildcard at the 2023 awards, and it was selected among the top gold winners as the year's Best in Show. Hello, Maddy and Jessey. Thank you all so much for being on the show today. Matt and I are very excited to talk to you about your graphic novel. So congratulations on your Paragon Award and Best in Show. How exciting. So one thing that I noticed just immediately about your graphic novel is just how unique it is. I don't know that I've seen any other college kind of recruitment materials in that format. And I love how accessible that makes the information feel. And I'm sure it's like a really big project. I look at that and I'm like, wow, that took a lot of work. So I kind of want to know about the process, like how you got this project started and what that was like.
Kind of just by walking through the halls at our campus, I see like a lot of our students seem to really be into graphic novels and to comics and animations. And so thinking about that, or just kind of with that background, we had an opportunity with some grant funding for a PATH grant, which is to promote healthcare pathways or healthcare careers. And so we had this opportunity to create something new. We had a larger budget than we usually do have. And so those two things with each other, we were able to think a little bit bigger. And so that's where the idea from for the graphic novel came from.
That's great. I love how when you have some grant money, it gives you permission a little bit. You're like, oh, look, we have permission to do something kind of different. That's really a great opportunity for that. And so it's interesting talking about how much the audience is kind of into the graphic novel thing. Like I noticed that I have 2 boys who are into that too. So how do you feel like your audience kind of relates a little differently in that format?
I think it's been received really well. And actually one of my coworkers told me this morning that she saw one on the T-ball field of her son's little league game, and like a kid, like I don't know how it ended up there, but a child picked it up and was like, "This is my new storybook," and I was like, "Wow,
awesome!"
It's still getting some traction a year later.
Yeah, it's always awesome to see stuff that you created out in the wild. It's one of the most exciting things about our jobs, especially things that have legs and just kind of sit there for a while and you can always come back to it. I'm curious a little bit about so the grant fund, the healthcare career paths. What drove the design of this? And for our listeners, I'm just going to describe it a little bit. Of course, comic booky, not manga, so not like anime style, kind of monochromatic, even though there's multiple colors, this real interesting hand-drawn kind of art style and typography. How did the audience help kind of drive the look and feel of this piece?
Well, I did while Jessey was writing the story, I had a little bit of time to actually do some visual research because I've personally never illustrated on this scale before. And so I did illustration in college and I have some experience with that, but I've never drawn people. And so I was kind of I was really grateful that I had probably a month and a half, right, of just prep time while Jessey was actually writing it. And so she gave me a little hint at what the characters would be. So I did a lot of research with other graphic novels. I did actually the Simpsons illustrator or the Simpsons designer or storyboarder. He actually has a guide on how to storyboard things. And so I had to learn that from scratch.
That's fantastic.
And it's kind of a science. So I'm not sure if I did it correctly, but it was just really cool to be able to learn all these different skills. And for the style, it's mostly just I tried 4 different styles. And then we ended up on this navy blue, thick lined type of illustration. And that's mostly just my personal style coming into it just because of the time restraint. And that's just naturally what I was drawn to anyway. So, and for the color scheme, we use CLC blue and CLC green that way, just so it's less complicated and it's probably better to print anyway in only 2 colors. So it worked out really well that way.
Yeah, it really just kind of matches the visual brand of the college. People can look at it and see what's happening. Well, as someone who's hired illustrators before, I would never guess that this is your first time doing a major project drawing people. Yeah,
right. It looks great.
Yeah, it looks incredible. You hit the proportions of the people right. The hands look right. That's always the hardest part for me. When I ask illustrators to draw people, I'm always like, yeah, those hands. Why don't we put them in their pockets or something?
I think, well, it took me 3 or 4 full months of just illustrating, Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day illustrating. And so what I decided to do was draw it chronologically because the story was still kind of being written. like there was a lot of editing going on. So it was like sometimes we'd have to go back and fix some panels and change the wording. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to draw this chronologically. And so by the time I got halfway through the novel, the art style, like I had gotten better, like my skills had developed. And so I would have to start all the way back at the beginning just to redo all of my horrible drawings in the beginning. And so it was just like, oh God, I didn't think I would improve when I made this. So yeah.
I would also say that when the idea to do the graphic novel came about, it was like fully knowing and trusting that Maddy would have the amazing skill set to pull this off, because we did want to do it all in-house. And I don't know, I've seen Maddy's Instagram and she's always like putting drawings and paintings on there. And I was like, I want to make this graphic novel and I want Maddy to draw it, because I think it's going to be beautiful. Like she's going to come up with something gorgeous.
And that's what we like to see from our members, right? And all of us have these strengths on our teams, and we want to lean into those on our teams. I think you've done a really great job doing that with this piece.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I also love how easy, when I was looking through it, it's also cool that not only do you have like a storyline for each of your characters, which is really good, and it shows how they got to college and some of the roadblocks that they had, but also you do a really great job, to me, of showing what services are available at the college once you're enrolled there. And to me, you do that in a really seamless way that goes really great into the story, which is also just really great to me. It really fits into the story really well. You did a great job on that, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Jessey, I assume you wrote that part of the story. So had you had other experience in kind of writing like a graphic novel or some sort of project like this?
No. I had read, I think, one graphic novel ever, probably 20 years ago. And so I knew that they existed. I also know when I walk into our library on our campus, one of the largest sections there is a graphic novel section. So one of the first things I did when we got the go ahead to do this was go to the library and check out lots of graphic novels. And so I just started reading them. And I think I probably read 10 of them. Our student worker at the time had also given me a recommendation and lent me one that he really liked. And so I read that. So I kind of had an idea of what just the shortened storytelling form was like. And so I just try to do it that way. I had written scripts before, and that I think that was the most I've had to do. I write a lot of the scripts for our video work currently in my job. And then in my undergrad, I actually took 1 or 2 script writing classes that were just for fun. So I had a little bit of experience with that, but not specifically with a graphic novel. No. I just looked up a refresher on the classic heroes arc story structure. And I was like, okay, here are my bones. Here are my characters, and plugged it in from there.
Yeah, that's great. Love those frameworks.
Yeah.
That's what Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Is that what that one is?
Yeah, I think, it was essentially that.
Yeah. So you're talking through this process of doing research by reading these graphic novels and, leaning into archetypes. And what are some other ways that you leaned into that research, maybe to do some character development? Where did Titus, Elena, and Lucas, where did they come from?
Yeah, so they came. So I wanted to select three people who could be CLC students or who could have been CLC students at one point. And so we're a community college, so we have a really broad spectrum of students, which is really nice to work with in here. For Titus is a recent high school graduate, and they're not really sure where they want to. They had an idea that they wanted to be a nurse when they graduated high school, but they came through high school during the pandemic, and it was as everybody remembers, 2020 high school kind of sounds like a nightmare. And so they graduated high school feeling like they didn't really want to do that anymore. Like it's enough school, that they've had enough. So they're still working, but they had already expressed these ideas of like what they wanted to do previously. They've been working at this cafe for a while, or cafeteria. Alana and Lucas, our other two characters. Lucas, I actually came up with by researching some personal narrative stories of people who had experiences or like poor experiences with translation in medical situations. And so I just did most of this work through YouTube, like looking up, just trying to find like people who are telling their stories through YouTube on video of their own personal experiences with the medical system and not speaking the same language as the doctor or, other medical personnel. And so that's kind of where their story was derived from. To make that person, Lucas, a little bit younger, I made the story in the graphic novel. He's telling the story of an experience that he had with his father, and it kind of informed how he ended up in the field he ended up. And then for Alana, her story is that she used to have a job at this shoe store. It was like a family-run shop, and the shop had closed down, and she basically just needed to reskill for a new career. And so she entered into a medical field from retail. And so all those stories are kind of told in there, and all those stories they're really based in reality because a lot of them were informed by several stories that were found on YouTube or other stories that like we just hear in PR marketing. It's talking to people to tell their stories as part of our job. So it's just a lot of stuff going into these characters.
One of our health sciences associate deans, who was a department chair first, that's how she got in the career path, was medical situation with one of her parents and her desire to never have anyone else have to live through that. She went through the path and then is teaching our students how to go through that.
Yeah, good. That makes me really happy because I wanted the stories to feel very real and like they could, because they were taken from so many different narratives and made into one. I was like, I really wanted it to feel like it could be real.
Well, yeah, that's the hallmark of good characterization and good storytelling.
Yeah, I think that the research that you all did behind this is impressive to me. It's not like you got the idea and just sat down and willy-nilly decided that you were just going to throw something together. I appreciate the research a lot. It reminds me a lot of, we talk about in marketing, finding your personas. We were the personas of your students. And I think you all have done that here because I can see that like, oh, I see our students here too. So I think you've really hit the persona of a community college student.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember when Jessey first introduced it in a meeting. I was kind of like zoning out because it was like the end of a weekly meeting, and then I hear Jessey go like, "Oh yeah, and a graphic novel," and I was like, "Huh? What? I'm involved in this?" And so at first I was like a little confused because I was like, I don't know how graphic novel fits into like healthcare, But right. The more I worked on it, and the more it just after we released it into the world, it was kind of like, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense on a storytelling perspective, because I can't imagine telling this any other way, because it's like it's a great grant that they're giving to students. Like it's practically free tuition for those who want to enter the healthcare field. And so I think it is really important to tell stories that people would have never experienced themselves, so that you could gain some empathy for people in the healthcare field and those who are diverse backgrounds, or like Titus is non-binary. I think it's really important to introduce that narrative, like how gender is incorporated, because now that's very important.
Yeah, and you all have just done such a great job of that. And that's really, the crux of what we do as marketing professionals, especially for community colleges. You're telling a story that is so compelling that someone wants to act on that and change a life, change their story. And, any different medium we can use to do that is excellent. I want to talk, we're going to get a little weedy here, but I think some of our listeners really like this. The the graphic designers in particular. Can we talk a little bit about pre-press printing, kind of how that process went? And let's do it. Let's really talk about it.
Talk about it.
Paperweights and perfect binding versus saddle stitching. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Get ready, print nerds. Here we go.
So I created this entirely on my iPad. Not entirely, but I created it in Procreate. And then I kind of built it in InDesign. So what I would do is I would create a frame. So maybe like Titus is sitting at the table and there's a speech bubble. I would leave that speech bubble blank, and then I would import that into InDesign and kind of arrange it on the page based on like the last feedback we had on the script editing. And then I would like keep the type active so that I could keep editing it. And then, so the first half of the book is all in navy blue, and then it switches to green halfway through when Titus decides to go back to school and become a nurse, and just as like a different perspective change. And so so I would export each page, and then we do have someone in our office who's been here for 35 years, and she's like our
2 years.
She's our print master. And so I don't know too much. I'm not an expert on that. So I did kind of hand that over to her, but I did go to all the press checks because that's very important. And when I sent them the files, there was actually a typo on the cover.
Of course,
I don't know. I think I caught it, right? Like because on the cover it says "Training Tomorrow's Healthcare Heroes," and for some reason it went through all of our editing, and there was no E in heroes. It was just HEROS, and it was like, wait a second, that's not spelled like that.
That is the classic proofreader's paradox, right? When you're proofreading your own thing or proofing your own thing, you just get blind.
I think we looked at it like too many times, and then
that was scary. But I think that was our only mess up.
I think so.
In terms of printing.
And what kind of press did you go with? Did you print in-house, offset?
No, it was I actually don't know. I don't know the technicalities of it.
Yeah, we didn't print it in-house. We did send it out, but our colleague Di she kind of arranged all the printing. She started with us as like a printer, I think like 42 years ago. Actually, in 1982, because it's the year I was born.
Oh wow.
So she kind of has like that house of knowledge, which she does share it with us, but I think she still holds most of it.
Yeah.
You should ask her if she started as a stripper, because in the old days of printing, there was a print job that was a stripper. Basically, they would strip plastic off the back of contact paper and things like that to make the presses work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew we wanted like a glossy look for it to kind of match other graphic novels that we had looked at. We didn't do like a super hard stock cover, but it is a heavier weight than the paper inside. And so I think she did the really nice work of selecting that all out for us. So.
Yeah, and I think it's saddle stitch. Is that right? Staples. Yeah. It's a really nice looking book. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it has like a nice weight. Like it feels like a permanent piece, and it like almost feels like something you could put under your bookshelf and like really love it. It could live with the rest of your graphic novels.
Well, obviously, people are fighting it at softball fields.
I know. Yeah.
So did you distribute most of these as a hard copy, or do you find that a lot of people find it online and look at it that way too?
A little bit of both. I'm always surprised at how many people have looked at it online. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I remember I was like, oh, we've got a couple QR codes out for this in other places. And like I said, I'm always surprised, and I'm like, oh wow, these are getting some traction. That's nice. But mostly we distributed them as hard copies. We gave them we have college and career navigators, and they're people who go into the high schools and meet with students. And we have a couple that are embedded into high schools. We sent them out with them. Our medical and health services division, they've been really great at. They have different like health experience or wellness experience days and things like that, and they hand them out through there. So we've gone through. I think our initial printing was like 5,000. We went through all 5,000 of them.
Wow!
And we're going through our second printing now of it.
Great! Sounds like it was a hit.
Yeah, they're getting out there.
I always love walking through because I have to walk through the nursing section of the school to get to the parking lot. And I noticed there's like always a stack of them in like a wall holder. And like sometimes they're just gone. And it's like, oh, yay.
Yeah.
And so do you find that, was it mostly geared toward high schoolers? Do you feel like that's where the audience kind of ended up?
I think mostly, yeah. And that was also part of the grant. The grant audience was mostly people, incoming new students. So it was kind of written that way for that reason. But also, there's Alana's story and Lucas's story in there, and they are both CLC alums. So it kind of brings in some of the adult student touch points as well. So it's all kind of in there, but we mostly intended it for like a young adult audience.
There's some Minecraft references in there. So
yeah, I noticed that.
Mine what?
Titus is the hero. Titus is the hero. So I can see how high schoolers would be attracted to that.
Yeah.
And so obviously people have been seeing it out. It's exciting. So I guess lots of people love the graphic novel. And are people cheering for more graphic novels? Are you all going to do more graphic novels? Or
there was one person that approached us after, and they're like, "Could we have one?" And it's like, "No, I'm sorry. Go through that again."
Yeah, bring us some grant funding.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time and resources, and I would say if like there's a downside of this, like it's probably the time investment, I think, into it. Although like we didn't only produce a graphic novel, so we created the graphic novel, but then we derived all of our other advertising for this campaign from the graphic novel. And so we used the same creative for our digital ads and for our print ads. Mm-hmm. We had one ad that I really loved. That was it was to go on a bus stop. For the Lake County bus stops, and it had some panels from the graphic novel on it, and then a QR code to read it while you're waiting for your bus, which I thought was I don't know, I thought it was really cute. I liked it. And what else did we do? I think we did a newspaper, like a local newspaper ad with the creative from the graphic novel, and then we have like a magazine story. We have a CLC magazine, and we used. We had a whole story about the graphic novel in there too. And not just the graphic novel, it was about the PATH grant, and it used some of the graphic novel illustrations in the story. So we put it out lots of places.
We were attempting, like when we were like creating the graphic novel, we were like, oh, let's plan to make this animated after for the ads. Mm-hmm. And so like I have a little bit of experience with like 2D animation. Like I am not in any way an expert in that. And so I was like, oh, if we do like that sketchy little like two frame like animation type thing, that would work really well.
Yeah.
But it just like we just stayed with the print. Like that would have actually taken more time than the graphic novel itself.
Right. So from inception until there's a box of these delivered in your office, about how much time passes, weeks, months, years, lifetimes, and about how many hours went into that?
We started at the end of January, and we had I think we went to print early April. How that goes in hours, I think Maddy has more hours in the illustration than I have in the writing for sure. I think the writing maybe took maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But I think Maddy was getting edits from and stakeholder feedback until like mid-March. So
until May. until May.
Yeah, they're still emailing the edits. So.
I think because we actually figured out the actual timeline because we presented this at the NCMPR conference. Mm-hmm. And so I went back into all the emails and I took out all the timestamps, and it says January 30th is when I first started illustrating. And then March 29th is final approval. So that's just how long I was illustrating.
Nice. Yeah. Fastest 60 days of your life.
Yeah. I thought it would have taken longer, personally.
Yeah. No, it's astounding to me, actually, the time frame that you did this, and that it was essentially just the two of you plus the press people.
Yeah.
It's just really excellent work.
I'm very grateful that I have, because we have a senior designer in our office, Marcus, and I'm very grateful that he took on all of the other projects that we usually do so that I could have time to actually draw this every single day. I don't think I touched another project for that time period. And that was very great of him.
I think that when you could have told me that took you a year to do, and I would be like, oh, okay, sounds about right. So I think that is very impressive, what you were able to accomplish during those months. And then the fact that you built a whole marketing campaign that sounds really cool. Job well done. I mean, not that you need me to pat you on the back, but I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
So I think our last question would be, what's the feedback been like? What were the results? And how do people like it?
Feedback's been really positive. We've had, we know it's not a digital product. Its main focus of it is not a digital product. So we can't really get a lot of measurable feedback, but we've gotten a lot of really, really great word of mouth response from it, from both our our health and wellness departments and NCMPR. We also won an award from PRSA for content creation. We won a silver anvil for it and for the campaign. And so the response been really, really, it's been great. And then our outcomes for the Path Grant programs, which are all, it's 8 or 9 different healthcare focused programs. We had a 56% increase in program enrollments, after this campaign. After the first round of this campaign, and then a 71% increase in program completions in it. So, I think people are connecting with it, and they're reading it, and they see themselves in it, and they're at least thinking about these programs differently. There's a big team behind, besides Maddy and myself, behind the whole campaign that this turned into. So, while Maddy and I put in a lot of the legwork on the hours and illustrating and writing this, and the research, we had a lot of very talented people doing the rest of the campaign work while we were really just digging in on this. So,
well, who could ask for more? An awesome campaign that wins awards and creates pathways for students and success pathways for students. There you go.
Yeah, those ending stats are pretty impressive.
Yeah.
For enrollments and completions, who can complain about that? I dare you.
We're really happy about it. Our dean is really happy about it. Our dean of health and wellness is also happy. He said.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and telling us the story about your graphic novel. It's been great chatting with you today.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is really fun.
Can You Make It Pretty is presented by the National Council for Marketing and Public Relations. NCMPR is the country's premier group for PR, communications, and marketing pros at two-year colleges. Can You Make It Pretty is mixed by Bill Aldridge at Third City Sound in Joliet, Illinois, and produced by me. I'm Jacqueline Johanna Garver, and I'm the Communication and DEI Manager for NCMPR. Can You Make It Pretty is available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. If you like what you've heard, we'd love it if you subscribed, downloaded, rated, and reviewed.